Hi, Journalism 120. I wanted to give you a video about storyboarding to give you a little bit more guidance. I think many of you are having some confusion about how do you incorporate this 5-shot sequence that I keep talking about along with the rest of planning out your video. I think perhaps it's feeling fragmented between this idea of having a 5-shot sequence and how you build the whole narrative of the video or outline of the video. And that's the first thing I want to say is remember that a storyboard is basically a visual outline. Just as though you would put in an outline for a paper, first your intro and your thesis, body paragraph number 1, body paragraph number 2, etc. That's basically what you're doing visually. And it's giving you a chance to think about it before you're actually in the moment when you might not remember exactly what you're supposed to be shooting. And also I want to give you something else to think about. Right now you're just shooting video probably with your mobile device and you're doing it for a class. But if you end up doing any of this with your work life, it might be quite a larger production. And if you're doing this not through mobile journalism, but actually, if there's any of you who want to go into filmmaking or anything like that, there could be upwards of thousands and thousands of dollars online, on the line for any of these shots. And so you don't want to shoot the wrong thing, is what I'm saying. Now, of course, it's much lower stakes for you or for me, but if you're a journalist and you're out in the field using your mobile device and it's not costing you any money to do that, there's still a risk or a cost risk in terms of missing the shot that you need, because if you're covering news and you miss the shot that you think you might need, that could be a lost opportunity. Of course, breaking news, you're not going to be able to storyboard, but if you're doing any sort of news feature or anything that needs planning out. All right, so let's get down to it. I have a 2-page storyboard here. Obviously, I haven't put it in the project name and my own name and page 1 of 2 and the date and all that stuff, but I've storyboarded it. So this was based on an idea I had of what if I were doing a story on the ceramics teacher here at Skyline College. I might first give an opening shot that just sort of establishes that we're at Skyline College. So I might have the quad and people walking around. And then my next shot might be a medium long shot of the entrance to Building 1, which is where the ceramics and other art studios are. Then I might jump into my story. So here comes my 5-shot sequence, by the way. Here's a close-up of somebody, one of the students, throwing a pot, close-up of the face of the student, a wide shot of the guy, this same student at the potter's wheel in this wide shot begins to give us a little bit more sense of where we are, the place. And then back of this same guy at the potter's wheel, from behind. And then a creative shot of whatever I want. So at this point, I'm going to bring my teacher in. So maybe a shot of the teacher walking over to him or talking to him or something like that. I also want to mention, notice I am not a great artist. Okay, I really want you to, take a look at this. You don't have to be a great artist at all to start to have a vision about this. So don't get hung up on the fact that you're having to do stick figures. I mean, my God, I'm not winning any prizes for this. All right, so notice here I go. I'm going to get my first sort of setup shot of my teacher that I'm interviewing. I'm probably going to put in my video. This is just an indicator to me that I'm going to put in lower thirds information about her. I'm setting this up by the rule of thirds. I'm not putting her dead center. And so this is a reminder to myself. So she's going to start talking about being a ceramics teacher. And, this is going to come from my questions in interviewing her. And by the way, just something to know is oftentimes you'll set up the camera right here looking at this, and perhaps you can be over here. So your camera might be over here if you have it on a tripod, and you might be over here so that the person who's being interviewed is looking at you over here and not looking directly at the camera. Now, sometimes people look directly at the camera, and that's okay too, but I'm just want to let you know how that might go. And if you have 2 people shooting, again, instead of a tripod, the person who's recording might be over here, and the interviewer might be over here. All right. So here's on to page 2. So now I'm going to bring in another kind of B-roll. Now remember, one of your types of B-roll needs to be this 5-shot sequence, but you may have other B-roll in here. So my teacher interviewee is talking, and now I'm cutting away at certain moments to B-roll with the teacher interviewing, continuing, that voiceover continuing. But now I've got some other students in the class who are at Potter's Wheels. Then I'm back to that shot of the interview. The teacher is again talking more about maybe about her own work this time, and then I have some B-roll as she's talking over it about some of her own ceramics that she's done. The interview's continuing. And I'm going to pause here for a minute to say the reason why we want all of this B-roll is because you're going to be asking questions of this person, right? And you're not supposed to be in the story. So your questions need to be edited out. But you don't want to have this moment where she's talking and then the question gets edited out and suddenly we're looking at the screen and it cuts, quickly edits and she's in a different position. So if we cut out something visually and then all of a sudden she's in a different position, it looks weird. It looks unprofessional. So what we do to mask that is we have this moment, and then when we cut back to the interview after having cut out our own voices and editing, there's no problem. If you're confused by what I mean by that, come see me and I'll try to visually show you something. But anyway, so she's doing her interview. Now I'm cutting over to an interview with a colleague. So she's been interviewed, she's said something, it stopped, cuts to this person. I've got this person in the rule of thirds here too. I probably want to put lower thirds down here identifying this person, but this person is now talking about her the ceramics teacher and what a great teacher she is. The voiceover continues as I cut away to a shot of the ceramics teacher teaching, and here's a bunch of students. Notice my artistry is horrible. Doesn't matter. Then I cut back to my teacher interview, and maybe she says something like, I'll find something in the interview that's compelling. Like maybe she says, I love teaching ceramics. I'm living my best life ever, or I love what I do. And that ends it, right? That's a great thing to end on, and here are my credits. And now I'm out, okay? So I have conceptualized what this whole thing might look like. And the other advantage, in addition to not missing one of these shots inadvertently, is I kind of have, because of having done this, a sense of who I'm going to need to talk to, and even maybe what I'm going to need to talk about ahead of time, right? Like I know I want to have the ceramics teacher talk about her own work, and maybe have this guy talk about her teaching, etc. So I've had to play that out in my mind. Of course, when I get to the interview, she may tell me different things that change the storyline. That's okay, but I've conceptualized it. It's kind of like the chunking that we did around feature writing in Journalism 120. You just conceptualize it before you go shoot it. Okay, that's all. I hope this helps you with assignment 5 or whatever I've named it by the time you're viewing this.